people? It's Multiplier, and today we're doing a Q&A session for YouTube. I put out a message on Facebook saying going to do a Q&A video for YouTube, so comment with your question, and I got about 70 odd responses, as well as some on my personal page as well, so round that up to 80. Now if I don't get through all of them, I don't get through all of them, but I will try, and if I say your name wrong, it's because I'm reading from a distance and I can't be bothered to actually read it in detail. So, right, let's do it, and yeah, might as well just get into it. So, first up, first question from Cal. Have you released anything on the radio, worked with artists yet? Yeah, I've released The Heavy through Eagle 3 Radio a while back. Check out my SoundCloud page, there's a whole interview and some mixes I did, stuff like that. Also been interviewed on a few other radio stations in the past, stuff like Coventry Plus Radio, I think it was, so yeah, done a little bit of stuff with radio. Andrew Langdon, what animal would you steal from the zoo and smuggle home in a backpack? Obvious answer, penguin, but someone's already done that, so I'm going to say koala bear. Question from Sam, SBD. What do you think the next big sound genre will be? Tough question. I think big room's kind of peaking right now. My best guess, probably some trap influence thing, but at a different BPM. Like I know twerk's pretty popular, but I think it's a bit slow to be really, really popular. So maybe, I don't know, but I reckon it's going to be kind of trap influence, so it's going to have those kind of 808s and some of the trap sort of noises, but it's going to be something a bit different. I've been producing some like 160 trappish-y stuff, like that dirty vibe track from Skrillex and Diplo, that kind of vibe with those kind of drums, but I don't know, it sounds maybe a little fast to be super popular, so I don't know. If I knew, I would make it. Justin, when creating synth and bassline sound design for a certain tempo, what methods can be used aside from obviously changing the master tempo? So it's pretty much when you make a particular patch and you change the BPM quite a lot, like in this particular case you said from 130 hard electro to 770 brackets 140 for dubstep. It's just a case of changing the kind of the envelope settings to suit the particular like tempo or the length of the thing you want to make, and changing the LFO rates and stuff like that. There's no particular techniques other than just adjusting the time parameters for your particular preset. Question from Joel: how do Skrillex? How don't Skrillex? Another question from Adam, not me. My name's actually Adam, but yeah, it's from Adam Mutimer, something like that. Tips for getting music on your label and what being on a label involves. So to get music on my label, it's got to be interesting. Doesn't have to be really well produced, although that obviously helps. But if it's interesting and I like it, I'll release it. It's as simple as that. And what being on a label involves. So for most labels like mine, i.e. the normal level ones, not the big ones, it's pretty much just distribution. So unless you're talking the really, really big guys who have big budgets, it's only really distribution. So if you want to get released on iTunes, Beatport, Spotify, places like that, you have to go through a label. And yeah, going through a label like mine is one way of doing that. Obviously you get a bit of promotion as well, but fundamentally you've got to do most of the promoting yourself. It's predominantly distribution. Now if you get assigned like a big label, on what's called like a 360 deal, that means they'll basically be your booking agent, your management, all that kind of stuff as well. But that's kind of a whole different thing, as well as being signed to major. That's a whole different thing as well. It's not really a question from Patrick, but just a parallel compression. I don't really use it myself, so no. Question from Blaze, multi-band even compression tutorial. Now, multi-band compression is great if you're really good at like producing, but it's really difficult to do well. So I recommend, I rarely multi-band compress stuff because I don't really need to, unless I'm dealing with weird samples. But yeah, if you don't understand multi-band compression, don't use it. Understand normal compression first, and then multi-band is simple enough once you know normal compression. It's just doing compression in different bands, really. Got a question from, well, that's not a question there. This one is Tarkan or Tarsan, something like that. Achieving commercial loudness without destroying the whole tune. Which RMS level is loud enough? Now I can't remember the exact RMS level. I tend to use the auto gain settings in Traktor as my reference. So if you use the auto gain settings in Traktor as a reference, minus 2.5 dB tends to be the point where I go, that's it. It's really, really loud, but it's not too loud. It's not too destroyed. I guess I could work out exactly what RMS that is, but yeah, if you're using the auto gain settings in Traktor, which is what I do, minus 2.5 dB is as loud as you ever need it. It's sufficiently loud, but you can keep some of those transients in there, so when you play it through a big speaker system, you still get that kind of extra punch over something that's been completely destroyed. Question from Dade: what order do you build songs in? Do you start with a drop or do a bit intro and then around that? So basically, I just whatever I'm feeling. If I'm doing it a really formulaic way, I probably won't start with a drop. In fact, I rarely start with a drop. It almost always starts with the rest of the track. But yeah, sometimes it starts with a drop. The way I've been kind of trying to do it recently is just come up with the idea, whatever that idea is, and not really worry about what part of the song it is. Come up with the idea and then figure out how that idea is going to form into a song after that. So not really, when I start out and I'm trying to make a melody or whatever, I'm not thinking, let's do a drop melody or let's do an intro melody. I'm just, let's do a melody, and then if it turns out to sound like an intro, it'll be an intro. If it sounds like a drop, it'll be a drop. If that made sense. Cool. Question from Felix: what is the best way to make people hear your music? It's a really difficult question. I don't really know. It's really broad. That best way people to hear your music. If it's new people you're talking about, you really need. I'd say I point you towards that YouTube video where I said how to get new fans. So yeah, if it's getting new people hearing your music, check out the video I did a few days ago about how to get new fans. In that video I break down exactly how to get new fans. Yeah, that's pretty much going to be the answer to that. It's a really broad question. As I said, how to write a good song. It's not really a quick answer. Question from Jake: what does your typical workflow look like? I guess that's similar to the other question up there, but yeah, typical workflow varies, but recently what I've been doing is just kind of experimenting with samples, just kind of, if I've made a cool preset for some of the sample pack work I do, I'll just load up some presets, have a bash away on this APC, it's not an APC, it's an Ableton Push, until something sounds cool. Or if I'm not feeling motivated, but I think I should make a track, I start with the drums. Because it's if you're going to do it in a formulaic way, drums are the best place to start. And just kind of build it up logically around there. But if I'm feeling inspired, I'll just bash away. Or if I have an idea, I have an idea. And that's the best songs I write typically start from an idea, not from me just sitting down and going, right, let's make a song. But sometimes, like Waffle House, for example, one of my better songs, that came out of just spending a long time just uninspired as such, but just pushing through and just working it over and over until it actually sounded cool. So sometimes it works just like a 8-hour mega session of creativity, other times it's a 50, 60, 80 hour just kind of pushing through, make it happen kind of vibe. Question from Zonix, that's a cool name. Do you prefer your studio speakers or your headphones? Headphones definitely for actually producing. For writing stuff I prefer monitors. Because when I'm writing stuff I don't like having something on my head, and you're not worried about details when you're just writing stuff in general, so you can just whack it on the monitors. Bash away. I can spend a lot longer producing with monitors than I can with headphones on, for obvious reasons. But yeah, when I'm actually mixing and refining, I can hear a lot more detail with headphones. Yeah, it's just for millions of reasons you can hear a lot more details with headphones. Granted, stuff with the sub and stuff, you have to know how to hear, like stereo width, and understand sub through headphones, but once you understand it, you understand it. Question from Brad: producing your own drums instead of using kits, like what VSTs to use? For kicks, I've been using Bassism to form the base of my, like the fundamental structure of my kick. So I did a little tutorial on it, Bassism, a while ago. That's pretty cool. Otherwise, any synth can really provide the basis for your own drums, and after that it's just refining it. So I've been making some snares recently, and I use pretty much a different synth every time, so it really doesn't matter what synth you use. But some synths that are doing some cool VSTs that I've been using on drums recently is Disperser. Did a little video on that. It's this weird little filter thing. It's really cool. Been using that on some drums recently. Also, Max for Lives, a bunch of their like convolution reverbs and stuff. They're really cool for drums, just because they're so weird. But yeah, it's pretty much whatever VSTs you're feeling, you can put in a drum somewhere. But to get that kind of fundamental drum, like that fundamental note, you can use anything. Like bassism is great for kicks, but otherwise, yeah, you can use anything at all. Question from Ian: how many eggs can you eat? I've no idea. Question from Logan: I can't stick to one genre in my music, but it seems like just producing one genre is boring. But I don't think people like that. What do I do? I'd say carry on just making whatever you're feeling. I think the days of people just making one genre are kind of over. All the biggest producers, all the biggest artists, that have the most longevity are producing all sorts of stuff. So you can have your own sound, you can have your own style, but yeah, I think the days of you having to produce just one genre are kind of over, which is great because I can't make just one genre. It's really, really boring. Question from Tristan: do you ever do favours, for example, promote and recommend producers? Kind of, but not through like one of my multiplier pages. It would get crazy if everyone who said, can you just promote this for multiplier? If I did, it would be mental and it wouldn't even be a multiplier page anymore. So like if it's a case of recommending producers to other producers for remixes, stuff like that, like obviously like some of my producer friends who I know and like, I recommend those guys. So yes, but not through like my multiplier page. And it should be obvious why I don't post one of your tracks through my multiplier channel. But you'd be surprised how many people ask me to do that. But yeah, it should be obvious why not. Question from Kai: why not a vid on melody riff writing? Well, I did do one, but it was a bit of a shit video, so don't necessarily recommend watching it. But I suppose I could try and think up a better video to do. I'll work on it. Question from Alan: what is love? Brain chemistry. Question from Matthew: the answer to a lot of these questions is practice and experimenting. That's not even a question. Question from Will: just how important is compressing? If it is, how to do it properly? It's not very important at all, to be honest. Well, I think the answer is it depends. If you're working on recorded elements, like if you record vocals or record guitars, or if you record drums especially, you need to do a lot of compression especially for dance music, to make it kind of fit in. Now, if you're using samples from good sample packs, or if you're making your synths from scratch yourself, or using good presets, you just don't need to be compressing those sounds. Now, you need to do some form of compression, and especially limiting on the master. But in terms of just compressing, say, a bass sound, if you're using a preset, you don't need to compress it. If you understand why you're compressing, you realise why you don't need to compress most of the stuff you use most of the time. Yeah, you just don't need to. I'd say, yeah, compressing. If you're really, really good at producing, then you'll know when to compress and you'll get really, really good at it. But more often than not, people just ruin stuff by trying to compress because they think they should be compressing. So yeah, I'd say don't worry about it. Interesting fact: apart from vocals, I never compress anything. Well, I do a lot of sidechain compression, but I never compress any individual track ever. Like, not once ever have I done that. Riley: how do you come up with melodies or become inspired to make more music? I always just have trouble coming up with an idea. So yeah, basically, if I'm not feeling inspired, I'll just listen to music I like. That's what normally inspires me to make music of my own. I'll be listening to music and I'll go, that's a cool idea, I'm going to try and do something like that. And it'll end up morphing into something else, but that's got me going. So yeah, listen to music is always my go-to response for that. Question from Ryan: when do you find yourself creating and writing the best? What vibes do you try and put into the songs the most? Well, when I'm motivated and just feeling it, that's when I'm writing the best. That sounds simple, but when I'm kind of inspired by some of the music or just feeling it for whatever reason, that's when I write the best stuff. As far as what vibes, I vary. My songs have so many different vibes because I don't really have a consistent style yet, so it varies all the time. Sometimes it's like gangster dinosaur beat, sometimes it's like vibey train wreck. So you never really know. Depends what mood I'm in. There's no real go-to style or sound for me. Question from Mawul: how do you get the initial idea / plan for your tracks? I don't really necessarily. Each track comes together in a completely different way normally. Sometimes I'll just sit down and go, right, let's make a track, or let's start with the drums and then let's build it up logically. Sometimes I'll just get a bit of an idea or get a whole bunch of random little ideas and then have to spend ages trying to kind of put it together into a song. Other times it will just naturally happen really quickly. So yeah, there's no real answer to that. So it varies, and don't be afraid of working in different ways, because a lot of the times working in different ways can give you different results. So it's perfectly fine to work in lots of different ways. Whatever you're feeling as well. Make sure you're enjoying it as well, that's all important. A question from Dale, also Silent One tutorials. I don't have Silent. Maybe I'll email them, see if I can get them to send me it, because I don't have it at the moment. A question from Jordan. What is the best way to get yourself recognised to labels as an up and coming producer? It varies. So a lot of labels will listen to demos, but a lot of labels won't. So if you're talking the very, very top level of label, you pretty much need to know people to kind of get the labels to listen. So if it's, say, Owsler or whatever, just using Owsler as an example, kind of Skrillex's label, if you want them to sign you, you pretty much have to know the right people who can then send your demo to the right people. If it's just a normal level label, like my level or a few levels up, whatever kind of level you want to pitch yourself at, they will listen to demos. They won't listen to all your demos, but key thing is just pitch your demo in like a professional way. Don't just send them a SoundCloud link with no explanation. It should all be common sense, right? If you're sending someone a demo, for a start, make sure it's the finished, final, good quality product. Don't talk it down. Don't say stuff like, it's my first dubstep track, or it's unmastered, or it's unfinished, what do you think? Because then they're not even going to listen, or best case scenario, they go, great, send it to me when it's finished and I'll have a think then. So yeah, make sure it's good quality content for a start. But then yeah, just send them a demo with a little bit of a note. Be honest about it as well. Don't try and trick them into doing anything. They can always read through it when you're trying to trick them into doing something. Try not to CC every other label in existence into your email. I think all labels know that people will send it out to lots of different labels, but if you make it really, really blunt and kind of obvious, then it doesn't really look good, especially if you're like, I've got this cool track, I think it'd be perfect for your label, CC every other label in existence. They can read through that, it's not very honest. So yeah, be upfront about it, and yeah, be professional. It is, as much as it isn't like an artistic thing for labels, it's also a business, so just remember that when you're dealing with them. Oh yeah, and also something that no one's asked yet, but I get a lot of people asking me, it doesn't matter how old you are as well. You can be any age to sign a track to a label. Question from Mustafa. Will you answer this question? Yes. Question from Will. How long does it take for you to finish a song? It varies. So quickest I've ever done a track is maybe 7 or 8 hours. The longest has been 100 hours. Now, it's not a case that the one that took 100 hours was any better than the one that took 8 hours, or vice versa. It really just varies. Sometimes it takes a long time, sometimes it doesn't. Now, the thing I always like to remember is it takes the top producers, like say Rob Swire. It can take him 50, 100 hours to do a track. So if it takes Rob Swire 50 to 100 hours to do a track, like on average it may take him 30, 40 hours. And he's like the best producer in the world pretty much. So if it takes him that long, if you send me a track that you said you took maybe like 3 hours on, it's probably not going to be very good. So you've got to be spending at least 10 hours bare minimum on a track, because it just takes a long time to fundamentally do all the clicking. Like, even if I know exactly what I was going to do, like when I'm feeling most inspired and the track just falls together, it takes maybe 10 hours. But even then I'm just clicking like a maniac, because there's just a lot of clicking to do. So there is no chance that you can do a proper track in like 3 hours. Doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter. And I know a lot of people, like a lot of producers will say like, oh, I just wrote this in an afternoon, like say Zed will write a track in an afternoon. He'll write the track in an afternoon, but that's not a finished track. It will take him a few days to like mix it after that. So I'm counting the mixing time in with those hours as well. So it will take a long time. So yeah, just don't send me a track if you've only spent 2 hours on it. Just don't. Can't do shit in 2 hours. Question from Chuggy. It's not a question, just says check out my track I use with your massive presets. It's not a question. Might check it out in a bit. Question from Daniel. What are your top 3 favourite plugins? Tis a good question. Probably. Let's have a look through my plugin list to get inspired. So I've got a load of new plugins recently as well. So top 3 favourite plugins is going to be Trash 2, definitely. It's also going to be, oh, I don't know, then it's tricky now. It's got to be Massive in there as well, just because I know it so well. Yeah, it's got to be Massive, Trash 2, that's Isotope, Trash 2. And then either Disperser, I don't know, a lot of the plugins, it just depends what mood I'm in. Like Disperser is a really cool little thing, but sometimes it just doesn't work at all, but other times it sounds amazing. But I'm really enjoying the Lush 101 at the moment as well, just for, I can't make my own presets in it yet because it's pretty difficult, but it just has some amazing presets. Uses insane amounts of CPU, but the sounds are unbelievable. So yeah, that's a Lush 101, Disperser, Trash 2, Massive. Google that shit. Oh, got a notification. Ignore that. Right, so question from Dean. Once you've produced decent music, what's the best way to promote your tracks without spamming everywhere with check out my fresh beats, yo? What I do is reverse engineer it. So as yourself, how do you find out about new music? And then you should do the reverse of that. So or just kind of follow the chain backwards so that you can do the same thing yourself. So if you say you find out about new music through a YouTube channel, naturally if you send your track out to YouTube channels, that might be a way that other people find out about your track. So you just got to think it through, think about all the different ways that you find out about new stuff, and then just reverse engineer it. Simple as that. Question for Theo, from Theo. How can I create housey dance vocals? You either use samples from sample packs, or you sing them yourself, or you get someone to sing them for you. Question from Dale. Can you make a tutorial on making a rolling bass on Massive on FL Studio Basic Effect? I've no idea what that is. Also, and or a tutorial on changing increase BPM mid-song, please. I think it sounds like you're using FL Studio, so I have no idea how. If you're using Ableton, you can just automate the BPM, the tempo, by opening up the automation lanes for on the master track. So yeah, you can do that in Ableton, no worries. Question from Hudson. What do you think defines your music? Me is the answer. Yeah, that's genuinely the answer. Me. I haven't got a definitive sound or style. I suppose I might do, but I can't hear it myself. But yeah, fundamentally, it's made by me. It's got my energy in it. That's what defines my music. A question from Matthew. How do you master in Ableton? The easy way would be drag out one of the mastering audio effect racks from in Ableton, so you can go to like. Load up Ableton quickly. Now the mastering in Ableton is not the best, but it's good enough when you're really new to it. So you go over to Audio Effects, Audio Effect Rack, Mixing and Mastering, and then there's a whole bunch of mastering presets. So you just choose one of the mastering presets, or try a few of them, and then just play around with the knobs. Nice and easy. That's how you master in Ableton. I've lost where we are. A question from Darius. How to improve your sound to sound more professional? Practice and just learn as much as possible. That's it. And analyze tracks you like. That's the third tip. Question from, can't read that name. How to get better at sound engineering and plugins like Massive. I'm sick of downloading 5,000 presets and finding the right one. So check out tutorials, read up as much theory as you can. Read the manual, it's surprisingly useful. Most manuals are written really well now, so yeah, I always read the manual, that's how I know the details. But yeah, read the manual, practice, absorb as much information from the internet as you possibly can. Question from Sam. When did you start making music? I think it's about 3.5 years ago now. Start of 2011, I think. Yeah, 3.5 years ago. I think it's 3.5. Yeah, what year are we? What year is this? 2014. Yeah, 3.5 years. Logan Danes, who, what, was, where, is, are your biggest inspirations? Skrillex, deadmau5, and Rob Swire. Question from Sergio. What was your first job and when did you get it? First job was probably the bike hire place I was at. So I basically worked at a bike rental place in the woods, so our boss was never there, so it was pretty much just me and my friends sitting in the sun waiting for bikes to come back, so we'd just play on the bikes. And yeah, super easy job, just sitting in the sun all summer. It was super chilled. Super chilled. Virtually no money, but it was a lifestyle. It was good. I'm not even sure I had an official job title. I like to think I was supervisor of bikes, bike supervisor. But yeah, we're just waiting for bikes to come back from the rental place. Easy. Question from Josh. What is your favourite bass synth that you made and why? I assume that's a patch he's talking about. I've no idea. I don't really have a favourite. Nope, genuinely don't have a favourite. I just kind of make them, because a lot of the times when I'm making bass presets, I'll then process it heavily out once it's come out of the synth. So I don't know. And my favourite bass sounds I've ever made have been from samples, not from synths. So. Yep, a question from Kyle. I've been an avid FL user for a year or two, just tinkering around, trying to learn from YouTube, etc. I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. Don't know how to use plugins or even make kick snares feel more powerful. Is it good? It's basically Kyle's wondering how to like learn more. I'd say best thing to do. There are a lot of good YouTube videos. If not, if you want the more advanced tips, Pensado's place, that a podcast YouTube thing is where you get the most advanced kind of good quality tips from. But yeah, YouTube videos is pretty much all I did myself. You can take courses if you want to do it in a more structured way. But yeah, myself, I just learned from YouTube and then trial and error, reading manuals, listening to interviews with pro producers, stuff like that. Question from Aaron. Best way of learning music theory? I've no idea, to be honest. I don't know music theory. I imagine go to music school, but I'll read a book. Question from Neil Horton Hill. Would you rather drink 3 litres of milk with each meal or have to have 3 full meals whenever you drank milk? I only have milk with Frosty, so I don't know if that counts. So the second one, 3 full meals whenever you drank milk. There you go. Evidently I can't read. Question from Michael. Cowbell or triangle? Cowbell every time. Question from Christian Ray Spencer. What's your favourite music software? FL or Ableton? Ableton, obviously. Never used FL, not a fan of it. A question from Jacob. Do a short video on what kinds of dithering is optimal when exporting. Most people, even producers, have no idea what it is. Relevant point, a lot of producers don't know what it is. I'm not going to explain, well, I might as well explain it in detail, or a little bit. I'll do an overview. So dithering is a little bit of noise added in when you're kind of downsampling from, like, say, 32 bits to 16 is the most common. and basically stops weird little artifacts kind of appearing, so it just makes it sound a lot nicer. So yeah, it's a little bit of noise added in. That wasn't the best explanation. So it's a little bit of noise added in when you're converting from typically 32 bits to 16, so that it just sounds a little bit nicer. If you're just using Ableton, the triangular dithering is my go-to dither. Otherwise, I use a dithering built into Isotope Ozone if I'm doing like a proper master or something like that. Some cool dither action. Question from Alex: do you hate Big Room House? Nope, I quite like it. Although, like most things, I only like the good tracks, and it's only great for like a short amount of time. But yeah, it's cool. I like a bit of Big Room. Question from Lewis: Logic or Ableton? I actually prefer the look of Logic, especially on a Retina display. I don't really know Logic very well, so I'm going to say Ableton. Especially because the Ableton works with the push, which has been game changing for me. But as a bit of software for mixing, I actually prefer Logic. It's a lot nicer. But yeah, Ableton's just more versatile for what I do. Although I really wish it had Retina support. Everything just looks lovely on this Retina display, and then you load up Ableton, and I want to rip my eyes out. So yeah, Ableton, I've emailed you, just sort it out. Retina support, make it happen. Question from Elias, something like that. What's usually your greatest inspiration while writing a new tune? Either some other music, or Skrillex, or the prospect of getting more honeys. So that's my greatest inspiration. Question from Hans: favorite massive oscillator? Probably Kangaroo. I'm gonna go with Kangaroo, or what's that other one? Oh, I forgot the name of it. Let's have a look. It's one of the effects ones. I recognise the name when I see it. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, Circada, yeah. It's in one of the effects voices. That's my favourite. So yeah, I'm going to go with Circada. Even though Kangaroos are cool, I'm going to go with Circada. Tips on adding a sub bass. Check out my sub bass tutorials. I think I've done a few now. That's how you add sub bass. Question from Fraley: what's your favourite food? Chicken nuggets, because they're amazing. Question from Mad Monkey: your tips on sending a demo to a record label? Already covered that. Question from Luca: why is your name Multiplier? Well, I wanted it to be easy to spell. I wasn't too worried about what the name was, and I was doing a maths degree at the time, so I imagine there was a bit of subconscious connection there, but I just wanted an easy name to spell. There's not a lot to it, it's just a word at the end of the day. Question from Johnny: can you start a remix competition? I did one a while ago. I do one again soon. I did a remix comp for The Heavy, my track The Heavy, which is actually, the remixes are coming out in soon. So yeah, the winners and the actual official release from the result of that remix competition is coming out on the 8th of July, which is 5 days. So yeah, I did a remix comp for The Heavy. Got a lot of responses. A lot of them were quite cool. But yeah, I'm going to wait a little bit longer until I do another one. But yeah, I'll definitely do another one. It was cool. Question from Chris: when are you going to do an in-depth tutorial on Gladiator? I don't know. At some stage is the answer. I've got too many like too much preset work and sample pack stuff to do to really get into Gladiator super in depth. But what I have done on Gladiator so far is amazing. It's one of my favorite plugins. It does some really cool stuff. Question from William: next fat upcoming synth except for Rev? I was going to say Rev, but you already got that one, so I don't know really. I'm not really aware of a lot of upcoming ones, so don't really know, I'm afraid. Yeah, I'm going to say Rev, even though you've said except Rev. Question from Alex: in making beats, the problem I always come across is the vinyl mastering. What do you recommend to new producers to learn mastering techniques? I just read a bunch of online things that explain mastering. That's going to be the best thing to do. because without diagrams and stuff, it's quite hard to explain some of the general ideas. But yeah, that's what I'd recommend. Just kind of Google how to master or guide to mastering, something like that, and there'll be various guides and shit. Question from Thomas: how does it feel to be successful? It feels awesome, but you're always kind of looking to the next level, so you got to be kind of stoked on where you are, but always looking to the next level as well. You never really get to a point and then go, cool, I've made it, let's just chill. So I'd say, yeah, it feels great, but you always got to keep pushing. You got to keep being motivated to get to the next level. You're always looking up. Question from Leon: what headphones do you recommend for mastering? Well, money no object, it'd be the OD's LCD 3s, but otherwise, whatever you can afford. The best headphones you can afford, basically. Apart from Beats. Question from Sebastian: what's the story of the name Multiplier? Oh yeah, I've already covered that. Question from Nuno: what is the best way to train your ears? Critical listening and practice, practice, practice. Question from Adrian: how do you get inspired? As I said before, just listening to music I like. That's pretty much it. Either that or like listening to interviews with really inspiring, motivating people. Question from Jacob: easy question, what's your favourite waveform in Massive? As I said before, Cicada. It's one of the effects ones. Question from Louis: best program for making dance super saws from? I'm going to say Helix, just because it does some really, really cool stuff with kind of giving you control over the phase. It's a bit weird and a bit advanced, but yeah, Helix is definitely going to be the one. I'll have a quick look through my list of plugins to see if there's anything else that jumps to mind. But otherwise, yeah, Helix is definitely going to be the best. Yeah. So I'm going to say Helix. It's a crazy synth, but yeah, Helix can be the best for dance super saws. But you can make super saws in almost anything. Sometimes if it's a bit of a restrictive kind of synth, you might need to layer it up or get a bit creative with it. But fundamentally you can, once you know the basic idea behind super saws, you can use most tracks, most synths. Question for Ronaldo. Yeah, Ronaldo. Best way to remix a song when you don't have an acapella? Yeah, just keep remix, just do the same thing you would normally, just without the acapella. Sounds simple, but yeah, just chop it up, sample it, do whatever you need to do, stretch it out, slow it down, whatever else you want to do. It's just you don't have the acapella for it. Question from Zach: what is the biggest challenge you've faced in music production so far, and how did you overcome it? Good question. I'd say probably compression. And yeah, how I overcame it is I really just basically researched exactly why people compress, how compressors work for a start, and then kind of more conceptually why would you want to compress something. And then once I understood that, and also did a lot of research from kind of when other producers compress and how they do it, that kind of made me realise when you need to compress, when you don't need to compress. But yeah, compression is definitely going to be the biggest challenge, just because it's something that everyone talks about, but it's really, really misunderstood in general. And it's really, really hard to get a feel for it, like in terms of just pulling up a compressor and twiddling on the knobs to get it to do something you want. So definitely going to be compression. So yeah, the main answer will be how to overcome it. Just by kind of analysing conceptually why you'd want to compress, not just looking at the compressor or looking at how other people are using them, more looking at it going, well, why would I need to compress? What would be the point in it? What would be the kind of why would I even need to compress, say? Question from Jacob: your favourite sample pack makers or your favourite sample packs? Probably going to get a load of hate for this, but I'm going to say Vengeance. just because they do genuinely do a lot of really good samples. Now, a lot of the samples aren't the best, but they do a lot of really, really good, reliable sample packs. After that, I'm going to say probably Exfer, that kind of deadmau5, Exfer, deadmau5 and Steve Duda pack, Exfer. Is it called Exfer? Yeah, it's just called Exfer. That's probably my favourite sample pack. I should probably name check some of the sample pack companies I've made stuff for, but that would sound like I'm promoting them. But yeah, I've worked for, or done work with 5pin Media, Loopmasters themselves, Equinox Sounds, Essential Sounds, Industrial Strength Records, or Industrial Strength, I forget what they call themselves. And they've got a few other weird little ones on the side as well. But yeah, check out those guys too. After DJing, what is your favourite thing to do? I don't know, it varies. It depends what kind of vibe it is. If my friends are there, like at a local gig, then I'll just kind of hang out with them. Otherwise, I don't know, it depends on mood I'm in. If it's 6 AM and I'm tired, I'll just go to sleep. But if I'm not tired, I'll do other stuff. Don't know. Really, really depends. I don't really have a routine. And then I'll very quickly check out, I've got 1 or 2 questions on my personal page as well, so let's answer these dudes. Top 5 most important mixing tips. I did a video on that, so I'll point you towards that. Finlay, favourite filter, the disperser plugin, really, really cool. It's like an all-pass, weird little quirky filter, really, really cool. Question from Raj, how do I make the perfect roast chicken? I have no idea, I can't cook. Question from Din, what are some cool creative ways to use Ableton's track grouping feature to enhance a mix in terms of saving CPU, organisation and subdividing effects amongst tracks in that group? I don't know about cool and creative ways. Obviously there's logical ways of doing it, like sticking all your effects together or all your drums or all your bass, but as far as creative ways, I don't know, I don't really get that creative with groups myself. Question from Sebastian, what's your opinion about music today? And what do you think is going to happen to the EDM scene in 5 years? And then the top 5 producers and why. Opinion about music today is it's awesome. Granted, there's lots of really bad music, there's a lot of amazing music as well. So yeah, you just got to get good at finding it. But yeah, the music's better than it ever has been. Anyone who says otherwise is talking shit. What do you think is going to happen to EDM in 5 years? I think it's going to steer away from like formulaic club tracks. I still think it's going to have that dancey element, but it's going to be a bit more like music, in the sense that it's not just going to be like 32 bar of drums, breakdown, drop, all with the elements you expect like a standard DJ track. It's going to have all those elements, like Skrillex. It has all those elements of a dance track, but it's just more like music. That's what I think is going to happen. So, especially because the only reason why dance music tends to be really structured and formulaic like it currently is because people were using CDJs and vinyl, but that's going to eventually get phased out. So once you kind of phase that stuff out, you really don't need to have everything structured in that really structured way. You can just do whatever. So it's going to be more music. It's still going to have that dancey, like pounding sort of vibe, but yeah, it's just going to be more music than like club tools, if that makes sense. Top 5 producers and why. I won't say why, I don't have time, but Skrillex, Rob Swire, deadmau5, Noisia, Feed Me. Sorted. Luke, question from Luke Stanley. When are you going to construct that baton? The moon baton? Soon is the answer. Question from Bo, do you like tacos? No. Question from Brian, how do you feel about glitch step? Ambivalent is the answer to that. I don't really know. It's weird. It's like glitch. I love a bit of glitch, but then I never really listen to it, and I don't really ever DJ with it. So I don't know. I really like it when I hear it, but it just doesn't really fit anywhere for what I do. A question from Andrew Fletcher. What's the best, dinosaurs or lasers? That's an impossible question. They're both the best. Dinosaurs and lasers are amazing. Question from Casey. Can you do a full in-depth video on producing in Ableton for beginners? Yeah, I did a series called something like Ableton for beginners. It's like a 10-part series, so check out that playlist. It's on YouTube. Question from Cole. Why are DJs treated as gods? Because they are gods. Question from Lewis, the final question. Why has so-called dubstep turned to shit? Certain aspects of dubstep have turned to shit, which is just because it was really popular. But there's a lot of really, really good dubstep. There's better dubstep now than there ever has been. People like look back on the olden days. I say the olden days, like the early 2000s, as some kind of prime era for dubstep. But I tell you what, listen to those tracks. They're shit. They really are shit. They're produced horribly. They're not even that creative a lot of the time. So yeah, dubstep's better than it ever has been. There's just a lot more of it. So you've got to get better at finding the right kind of stuff. So, but yeah, that's it. It's been a Q&A session. No idea how long that's taken. I bet it's been quite long. But yeah, all sorts of questions and shit. Boom. Been multiplier.